which is we offer programs in songwriting and performance, music technology, so we do sound training for audio technicians. We also have a radio station, and youth are taught to be DJs and radio journalists. And we've now started a program for younger kids that we call Sprouts. And but we also offer private lessons at a extremely discounted rate with some of the top teaching artists in Boston. And all of our programs are free, and they're available to all of Boston's youth. And we serve roughly 350 youth per year. So the way that I would really connect, there's some obvious connections in our roots and just about what we do, but in reading the book and in knowing a lot about the work that SEPNA does and other organizations in Boston, is that we have we're incredibly blessed to live in the country that we do, that has such funding for nonprofit organizations and arts organizations for the type of work that we do. And there's a lot of people doing incredibly good work, but there's a lot of segregation and marginalization among the youth of our cities in this country, and particularly in Massachusetts. And the neighborhoods of Boston are quite segregated. East Boston alone, just even though it's part of the rest of the city, it's the only neighborhood that's actually separated from the rest of the city geographically. And 60% of our youth do come from East Boston, and 60% of our youth are Latino and not born in this country. So we serve primarily a Central and South American population, but we also have other races and ethnicities, and we serve all of the different neighborhoods of Boston. But the issues that they face and the type of identity questions that our kids are asking, and what they're searching for, and the way that they're feeling oppressed in the city that we live in today is quite similar and has a lot of the same themes as to what was read about. I read about in the book. So, thanks. Excuse me.
Hi everyone, my name is Sapna and I work for Teen Empowerment. We are also a nonprofit based primarily in Boston. Currently I'm Director of Consulting and Training, so I get to talk to others and teach others about our methodology. And I started off running program. And when I say program, what we do is we hire young people. I'll backtrack. We're a social justice youth leadership organization, and so what that means is we are working with young people to really help them be the ones that understand what are some of the root causes underneath the issues that they see impacting their neighborhoods, and then we work with them to make shifts on those issues. So we focus in the population of sort of between the ages of 14 to 21, and we work in neighborhoods that are high poverty neighborhoods, and so all of the issues that correlate with living in high poverty. And so again, in reading the book Damian, just some of the same issues that you were talking about in the favelas, I think it's in a micro level here, but they're all related to or connected to the context of living in poverty. And so we are based primarily in Boston. We have a site in Dorchester and a site in Eggleston, which is sort of in the JP, Lower Roxbury area. And then we have a site in Somerville, Mass. We also are in Rochester, New York. And in those neighborhoods, what young people are doing is looking to see, well, what are the issues youth face? And in Boston, over the years, the organization has been probably together 16, 17 years, probably founded around the same time as ZoomX. It was quite a rich time, the late 80s, early 90s, rich in terms of the energies that people had and the desire folks had to have an impact on what was happening for young people in Boston. We started in the South End, and if you're familiar with Boston and the South End, and if you're new to the area, you would know what the South End was. And it is very, very different now than it was when Teen Empowerment first started. Lots of gangs, lots of gang violence, lots of gun violence, and it has shifted since then in that particular neighborhood. It has not shifted completely in some of the other neighborhoods that we work in. And so the young people that we hire are youth organizers, and they're paid, and that was one of the real strong points of this organization, was to be able to pay young people. The need is an economic need. And if you're going to counter the fast money that's made in the neighborhood, then you have to be able to offer folks, young people, money as well, that everybody wants to, or most people want to do good. Some people have bills to pay as well. And so if you're able to pay people, that was really a strong belief of ours. And so young people are paid, and they work in 2 cycles, either the school year or the summer. And we hire new youth every year, so we're constantly training youth organizers and sort of turning over, which is great. We're sort of shifting youth culture in that way. In Boston, the issues tend to be, they still focus around youth violence, gang violence, gun violence, the drug culture. You know, when I read about the favelas, it was not, I don't feel it's at that level, but it's still there. And if you're the mother of a young man who was murdered, it doesn't quite matter if there were 20 murdered or 1,000 murdered. It's still yours. And so that is still very poignant. In Boston, the young people sort of tend to take it out on each other, and so that's where you see the youth-on-youth violence. In Somerville, they tend to internalize it. And so in Somerville, the issues, same sort of issues, the way young people are dealing with it tends to be with overdoses, a lot more in terms of drug use, drug abuse, and suicides. And these are generalizations, and I have no facts or anything to prove it. It's just that because we have a site in Somerville and site in Boston, we just sort of see what are the issues young people are dealing with. And that's how it seems to be playing out. In Somerville, some of the issues are around immigration issues, being the child of immigrants and trying to figure your way out. Being the child of legal immigrants is different than illegal immigrants, and working on those issues as well, and what sort of opportunities are in front of you. And so we work with youth to help them find their voice, that everybody wants to feel powerful, and that for some young people there are a lot of positive access ways to power, and for some of our young people there are not. So being a part of a gang on a very small level fulfills a need. There's people out there that take care of me. There's somebody who's going to look out for me, that's got my back. If I need something, they're there. You know, I can get food, I can get something to wear, so they fulfill a real need. They also are involved in violent crimes. And young people at 14, 13, 12 don't particularly think of it in that way, and that's sort of how you get sucked up into it. And so we're asking them to use their power to understand the bigger context within which they are, so that feeling that anger or that despair or that frustration is real. Taking it out on each other just keeps it at this level, and it doesn't shift what's happening in the greater scale. And so when we work with our young people, it is about helping them understand how race and class have impacted their lives, and breaking it down in a very specific way. If you're familiar with Boston, the school systems, some are great and some aren't, and if you drive 6 miles to Brookline, it's a completely different educational experience. Why is that? And when you ask young people that, why is that? Why, when you get on the red line, is it so different once you pass downtown crossing? Why are our neighborhoods set up the way that they are? And when you start asking young people those questions, they have answers. They are thinking. They don't quite realize it yet, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to shake them a little bit on this. And then once they find that power and that voice, to use it to really work on motivating others. So how do you make shifts in youth culture? So we'll do small things like dialogue sessions. We work really hard to get youth and police together. And that's a real powerful event when that happens, when a police officer says to young people, you know, I don't know when I leave the house tonight if I'm going to make it back home. And a young person is saying the same thing. It's amazing to be able to do that, to be able to humanize each other. And so that's really what we work to do. So we'll work with police officers, with teachers, with community residents. Wherever the issue is sort of playing itself out is what we'll go ahead and try and do. And we use various elements of the arts, a lot around rap. It's a very popular medium in the culture that we work in. And there's a lot of rap music that doesn't always push the issues or the topics or the social consciousness that we want, and that's the medium. And so we work with our young people and challenge them. How do you use that medium to promote your message? And so they do write and perform original raps, spoken word. We'll do original theater pieces as well, and a lot of speeches, those sorts of things. And so whether it's at large events or small events, going to City Council, we're working with Councilman Arroyo right now in Boston, who's working on a youth advisory task force. So we're getting motivated in lots of different ways, on a very small level and on a political level as well. And I just wanted to read, if you wouldn't mind, just 2 quotes from here, because it